you could just be on dirt in a national forest, or you could actually be doing some technical terrain like rock climbing.
Yeah, and
Rock crawling.
rock climbing.
Sorry, babe.
Hourless life!
Whoa, we're hourless life now?
Yeah.
Are you excited? What does that mean, Caspian?
We had to travel all around the world.
Hey YouTube community, thanks for joining us. We're Eric and Brittany Highland of Hourless Life.
Welcome to our latest video series, Overlanding 101. But before you turn it off and say, oh, I know everything there is to know about overlanding basics, hold on, because this is going to be a little bit different from what you've seen before. We have been traveling full-time for almost 8 years in North America, and we're now full-time overlanders getting ready to drive around the world. And we want to share all about overlanding from our point of view as parents of a young child overlanding, as digital nomads working on the road, and all of the different things that we have to share.
So we're going to have a lot of really cool stuff coming in this 101 series, you guys. We hope you tune in, even if you're not new to overlanding, if you just want to hear what our perspective is on it. For us, the community is really important. So if you have questions, help us out. Ask questions in the comments, because that helps us give you the information that you're looking for. We love this lifestyle, and we want to encourage as many people who have interest in it to get out there and be part of it.
But for our first video, let's start with some definitions. What is overlanding? Let's get on the same page and talk about that topic.
So the term overlanding actually started in Australia. It was a bunch of cattle drovers that used to drive cattle across vast sections of the Australian outback, and they used to do it on foot. There weren't even cars back then, but they had to go over long distances, extended periods of time. They had to be self-reliant, and they had to get the cattle from one place to the other. And then as technology progressed, they would get into vehicles and still use those vehicles to drive the cattle across these long stretches of land. But that meant they needed less people to do it with, but they started outfitting their vehicles for this type of journey. And that's kind of where the origin started. And then of course with modern day overlanding, it's become more vehicle-based travel.
And we want to be very clear, our goal with defining overlanding is not to exclude people from this activity. In fact, one of our missions as a family is to encourage, inspire, and empower others to get out and pursue their dreams. And so we're not trying to leave anybody out.
No, it's not an elitist thing at all. It's just that definitions are important, because if we don't define something, then
it loses its meaning.
Right.
And so it's very important that we take a little bit of time to talk about what overlanding is and define it, so that this activity that enriches our lives and that we enjoy so much can live on and continue to build in its legacy and its history back from a long time ago in Australia. Overlanding is a relatively new term in the United States, and just in the past few years the term has been thrown around more and more, so that more people, when they hear the term overlanding, they have some idea what it is, unlike me in 2018 when I heard it for the first time and had no idea what it was. But here's the thing, it's a little bit difficult to define.
right.
So when we were full-time RVers, it was really easy to define because it was the vehicle that we drove.
Yeah, we drove an RV,
right?
We were RVers.
Right, exactly. But the thing about overlanding is that it has very little to do with what vehicle you're driving and more to do with the activity itself. And because not everyone agrees on what that activity is, there's no universally accepted definition of overlanding.
Now there are some good definitions out there, but no universally accepted definition. As an RVer, you drive an RV, you're an RVer. If you're an overlander, there's so many different ways you can go about overlanding, but overlanding still has a meaning.
The way that we normally define overlanding is vehicle-based adventure travel, often over long distances, over an extended period of time, and even crossing international borders. We've talked about what overlanding is. Now let's talk about what overlanding is not.
Right, so overlanding isn't off-roading, it's not car camping, it's not camping, and it's not a road trip.
But it can get a little muddy. because there are elements of all of those things that are in overlanding. So let's dig into them one at a time and talk them through.
All right, so when we say it's not off-roading, we simply mean that...
Well, off-roading is leaving the pavement, going off-road. You could be on a 2-track dirt road in a national forest, or you could be doing more technical terrain, rock crawling.
Yeah, and we've done that, and we love it. It's a lot of fun, but it's technically not overlanding. It could be part of it.
Not in and of itself.
Right.
It's not overlanding.
So when I say car camping, that it's not car camping or it's not camping, some people might feel like, what do you mean? Well, let's explain.
Sure. So if you leave your home and you go to the destination that you're going to camp, it may be 200 miles away in a national forest or at a state park. It could even involve some off-roading to get there. But you get to that place, you set up camp, stay there for a couple days, and then you head right back home. That's a camping trip.
Yeah, it's car camping, and we love it, and we've done it many, many times, but it's really not overlanding.
Not in and of itself.
Not in and of itself. So the next one was, I said it's not a road trip. Now this one's a little trickier to define, but let's get into it.
Absolutely. So what do you think about when you hear the term road trip?
So for me, it's like you get some buddies with you, maybe your best friend, or maybe even like 4 buddies. You all pile into a car and you decide you're going to go from one place to another, point A to point B, and you're going to try and see as many cool things as you can along the way.
Right. And a lot of times you're in your vehicle, you're stopping at gas stations, getting food there, you're stopping to eat at restaurants, you're staying at hotels. And so I think with road tripping, in my mind, it can be really similar to overlanding unless we say that the term road trip is missing something that overlanding involves. And for us, I think that something is the self-reliant aspect.
Right, and the ability to wing it. So even with the road trip, you might say, well, we do wing it. We decided to take this highway instead of that highway.
Yeah.
But with overlanding, oftentimes you'll just find some random trail that you've never been down before, and you just want to go check it out. And you might be 2 hours into that trail and decide, man, this place is beautiful. Let's just stay here tonight. And you have everything that you need. So then car camping becomes a part of that, but because you're on this extended journey and you're able to be self-reliant and you're just enjoying this area that you're in, you're able to just make this part of your journey. And we've talked about how in overlanding, the journey is more important than the destination. It's not about where you're going. It's about going. It's about being involved, being right there in the moment and taking everything in, whether it's the microculture that you're in, the terrain that you're in. Wherever you're at, you're just able to almost embrace that and become part of it.
So with overlanding, sometimes you don't know where you're going.
Sometimes you don't get to where you're going, even if you do know where you're going.
If you're enchanted by overlanding and you want to get started, we want you to.
Yes, we do. Absolutely.
And while it's really important to define overlanding so that the term doesn't lose its meaning, we've intentionally tried to keep our definition as simple as possible so that we don't impede you from getting started.
And it's super easy to get started. Just the first tip, and probably the most important thing that we share with people, is start with what you have. Don't go out there and buy a bunch of stuff. Just start with what you have. But make sure that you have the 5 basics of survival covered. So you need water. That's the most important thing. You need food. You need shelter. You need the ability to have warmth or create warmth, and the ability to get a good night's sleep. And if you have those 5 things covered, you can go. Just get out there and go. So if that means packing up your sedan, which is not an off-road capable vehicle, with a good sleeping bag that can keep you warm, and you've got water and food and you're using your car as shelter, that's good enough. Get out there and start exploring.
Absolutely. And remember, overlanding isn't off-roading, and so you don't have to have an off-road capable vehicle. In fact, there's people who drive around the world in vehicles without a 4x4 capability.
It's amazing to see the community of overlanders that are out there and just all the different rigs that they have. And some are really expensive. You see those huge box trucks, and some are honestly little hoopties, but they're having the blast. They're having the time of their lives.
It's about the journey.
We've got some really cool videos coming in this series. We're going to be talking about a camp kitchen. We're going to be talking about hygiene. A lot of people ask, how do you take showers? Where do you go to the bathroom? You guys want to know that? We'll share our toilet with you. What else, Brittany?
We're doing a big video on trip planning. We're
Oh,
going
yeah.
to talk about how we choose our routes, how we find campsites, and all that good stuff.
Right, and basically our philosophy about that too, because there's a lot of thought that goes into that that's based on experience that we're going to share with you. And we're going to do a day in the life video. At some point in time, we're just going to take a day and I'm just going to run around with the camera, or maybe even pass Caspian the camera and let him run around with it and show you what our campsite looks like, how we live day to day as full-time overlanders. We really appreciate you being part of our community. We want to encourage you to ask questions because that helps us help you by giving you the information that you want to know about overlanding. So if you have any questions, hit us up, right?
Absolutely. Thanks you guys so much for being part of our journey.
Yeah, we really appreciate you being here, and we'll see you in the next video.